My guest today is a genuinely good person and wants to help as many people as possible with his niche. And for years, he offered his courses for free in an effort to simply serve. But what he learned is he could serve them even more by actually charging them money. And once he started charging for his courses, he noticed higher engagement, higher completion rates, and most importantly, significantly more people getting the results they were after. And if one of the reasons that you're in this or want to be in this is to genuinely help people, then charging for your courses and often charging a premium is a great way to do that. Stay tuned. Hey out there, it's Jacques Hopkins, and boy, do we have a good one for you today. Shortly, you'll be hearing the full conversation between myself and Mark Smith from NZ365guy.com. Mark helps people with Microsoft business applications and has been putting out content in this area for over a decade. And I think there's really two big lessons from this conversation that you're about to hear that I really want you to focus in on. One is basically what I already mentioned. Selling is serving. So many people think that they can make a big impact just by giving away their products for free, but you can make an even bigger impact by charging. And from my experience, charging at the higher end of your niche. I've sold my piano course anywhere from $97 up to $997. And I can tell you without a doubt, my best students, meaning those that were the highest quality people, asked the best questions, complained the least, and got the best results, are the ones that paid more. And that's because it hurt a little bit when they paid, they were invested. And as the saying goes, when people pay, they pay attention. The second big lesson is consistent content marketing. So Mark has put out free content for years before ever releasing his first course. Now, I'm not saying that you need to wait that long, but Mark recognized how important building an audience was and how important content marketing was to building an audience. And if you're serious about starting or growing a course business, there are a few more important things that you could be doing right now than consistently putting out valuable content for your audience and for your potential audience. So those are my two big takeaways. And of course, there's plenty more that we can learn from Mark as well. So with that, let's get into that full conversation between myself and Mark Smith. Hi, Mark. Welcome to the Online Course Show.
Hey, good to be here.
How was that? You have a podcast. How do you start the conversation on your podcast?
Yeah, I found it very interesting the way you started then, because I'm always open to listening and learning. So I generally hit the record button straight away the minute the guest comes on, and the preamble then I cut off later, and I do a 10-second radio silence. It allows me to get background audio to clean up and post. And then I always start with three questions, which I call my getting to know you questions, which is the food, family, and fun. The 3 Fs, I call them. And it really just allows me to let the guests get talking and get comfortable before we get into the meat and potatoes of the conversation.
Yeah. It sounds like you're a little more structured than me. We just hit record and see where it goes. You know what the most awkward part of this that the listener doesn't get to hear is the end, right? You say bye and you turn off the recording, but then you're still there and you're still hanging out.
Exactly. And that's when the interesting conversation really happens, because sometimes there's things that can't be said on air. But, with the people I interview, often there's non-disclosure agreements in place. You might be talking about a customer that's, a Fortune 100 type company, but they can't mention the name, but they can mention the industry. And so you get all that follow-up information once the mic's no longer recording.
So what is this food, family, fun question? What are the details of it?
So the idea is, what's their favorite food? Most people, I'm surprising it's the question that gets the most engagement, right? People, they'll either start with, I'm a real foodie and this is what I like. This is a type of food I like, or this is a place I like to go to. Yesterday I had a guy on who just chases Michelin star restaurants, him and his wife. And so, interesting. And then family, tell me a bit about your family. People, you get a real sense of who they are, I feel, when people talk about family, like the importance of it. And this came from, I was traveling through Russia. My wife and I, did this trip in 2017, and everybody told us, you're crazy going to Russia. And particularly we started in Vladivostok, which is on the far side of Russia most people go to the Moscow, so St. Petersburg side of Russia. It's very civilized. Vladivostok's the opposite of civilized in a way. We even have a saying now, that has the Vladivostok effect. And people would say, you're crazy going to this place. It's dangerous. Don't go out after dark. You'll get mugged or something. And then in Vladivostok, when we talked to people and we talked about where we're going to next, which was right into to Siberia, they would go, you're crazy. Don't do that. It's dangerous there. Like, what are you doing? And what I found is everybody fears the thing they've never been to, the thing they don't know, the thing they've heard stories about. But out of it, what came really clear, most people have this central view around family, and they want to talk about their family. They care about, what's happening with their children, what their future is and things like that. And it's funny that so many people live in fear of the unknown, yet the consistency I found was this central thing of family wherever you went. It was a conversation point in, city after city we visited. And so that's why I find it's a real interesting question, because you can learn so much about somebody when you talk about family. Some guests talk just more about their parents and their siblings rather than their wife and their children. And then fun is really, because I'm in IT, it gets them to talk about, often I have to clarify this. What do you mean fun? Like, I just work, and, that'll be a response. And I'm like, no, what do you do when you're not working? What do you do if you've got downtime, what is it? And it's funny, in my industry, nobody says I go golfing. That's not a thing. A lot of people into computer games or they have really eclectic, far out interests like, food forests or syntropic forestry, or, they're homesteaders or something like that, particularly my American guests. Whether it's around their dogs, cats, things like that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that additional context. I'm no stranger to stealing good ideas, and I really like that. But here's what I'm going to do, Mark, is I'm going to just take that and I'm going to put it in my pocket and maybe bring them out later in the conversation and not just throw it out here right at the beginning. But I'd love to hear some of your responses to some of those here in a little bit. But I love the framing of the family piece with that remote Russian trip and saying, people are just kind of afraid of the unknown, the unexplored. But no matter where you are, people kind of resonate with family. Possibly to be continued. Okay, so let me ask you this, Mark. Your niche. All right, can we get the explain it to a kid version of your niche, like the explain it like I'm 5 years old version of what your niche is?
Let's try that. My niche is people that work in Microsoft technologies. They have a career that does something around Microsoft tech. But even smaller than that, it goes into a product set from Microsoft called Microsoft Business Applications. So it's software. The original, the OG software was CRM, Customer Relationship Management, and ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. And they have, I've been over 20 years in this career space. I started in 2003. And I call it a mentoring program. I call it the 90-day mentoring challenge, but it's mentoring at scale, right? So I have up to 150 people a time coming through the course. And it's changed a lot. I started it in 2018 while living in London. But the idea is that if you have a career in this space, you won't know all the options that are available to you, particularly because the number of people moving into this career space has grown to about 1.5 million people globally in the last 5 years. It used to be a lot smaller community. Microsoft did some stuff that made this tech take off, and it's a $4 billion business to them now per quarter, $4 billion per quarter. This little bit of software technology, which most people, when you think Microsoft, have never heard of it. You think of Windows, you think of Xbox, with Microsoft. I don't touch any of that. So this is just a small niche of people that have already got a career in the space. Either they work on it every day, the software technology, and they're building apps and solutions, automations, chatbots, AI, that type of thing, or they work for a consultancy that build this for other people, or they work for Microsoft. Those are the kind of three target audiences. So it's a very small niche. It's very tiny. But I've kind of sliced out a space of where I've become the go-to guy around the world when somebody feels that they've stagnated in their career, and how do they get to the next level where they want to still stay with either the product Dynamics 365 or the Power Platform, which is the other product group of products that I cover.
So it's pretty incredible when you can be the go-to guy in the world for something, right? Those are the words that you used. Answer this in as short or as long as you want, but like, how did you become the go-to guy for this?
So I outlived everybody. I've been around so long, and because I come from the bottom of the world, right, in a little country called New Zealand, I realized very early in my career, because I chose to work with this Microsoft tech, that unless you could get on the radar of Microsoft folks in Seattle, right, I was nobody. Like you didn't get shared information early. You only found out everything once it was publicly published. And so I proactively started to foster a relationship there. And to do that, I had to build a personal brand. I had to get away from being called Mark Smith, particularly because when you create content online and people can't find you because you have such a common name like Mark Smith, I had to brand myself, hence NZ365 guy, so that when people searched me online, they would find me. And so from that, I, created content over a period of time. And then what happened, I noticed people, because I'd been around so long, would hit me up on LinkedIn and things like that. And they'd ask me career-based questions. And it was around, what's my next step? What's my opportunity? How do I move up how do I progress my career into the areas that I want to do? I don't want to just be a consultant that is just moved from project to project to project, but I don't feel I'm going forward. How do I do that? And I suppose it started early on in my career in tech, in that a lady came to me and said, hey, how do I get a pay rise? And the way my mind works is that, okay, there must be a system for that. There must be a way to break that down. That shouldn't just be an emotional response. And so I systematized a process for her that made it easy for her manager to say yes and to increase her income. And it was all around how she presented the evidence of why she was justified in getting a pay rise. And that really stuck with me as a point of enablement for people, that sometimes they just don't know the system. They don't know the process. They don't know the path that they can go down. And I've collected those over my career. And so I was at this point, and how do I scale this ability to help people? And I never liked the idea of one-to-one. And I feel, of course, one-to-one just doesn't reach enough people. It doesn't help and enable enough people. And so you think, in 2017, when I started this was pre-COVID. Nobody was doing really online like we do now in a post-COVID world, right? Where I'm talking about online conference calls, video conference calls. And so I started with this model. How could I reach everybody in the world in my niche? No matter what country they lived in, how could those people get a mentor that would mentor them in their interest? And what I mean by that is that a lot of employers will offer you, we'll butter you up with a mentor internally. But the business mentor that you get you soon realize they're actually not mentoring you in your best interest. They're mentoring you in the best interest of the employer. They're towing the party line. Oh, we think you should do this training and getting this. It'll be great for your career. It'll help the company massively as well. And then you realize, it actually helps the company more for me to get these new skills than it helps me as an individual. You just want me to do this because, you need to qualify for a new level as an employer with Microsoft or something like that. And so you want me to get these certifications and these skills, not because you're really interested in me, but because it values the business. And so I really wanted to take that. I wanted to be an advocate for the individual outside their organization, and I wanted to do it at scale. And that's really how it all came about, how I built the reputation. And now when I go to conferences, I was just in Slovenia a couple of weeks ago speaking at a conference. And, on the first day, these people they're leaders in their own right in the industry. The first thing they do come up to me, hey, can we just go for a walk? And they just want to talk, about where they are. And it's funny because it doesn't just stay on career, right? It gets into their personal lives and so much more detail as you build these kind of connections over time. And so, yeah, that's why I say I become that go-to person in that space, but I wanted to scale.
How quickly after you made the decision to have a personal brand and start putting out your own content, how quickly after that did you launch a product that people could buy from you?
So I started personal branding probably at least 7 to 10 years before I started a product.
Were you monetizing that in any way, in any other ways?
No, I had my own company. I had built a reputation enough to start my own business in the space. I had about 25 employees, so just a small company in New Zealand. But I had started what the personal branding did was get me on a global stage, and it got me global connections, and I got to meet people, particularly in Microsoft, where I needed the most influence, in Seattle. That really opened doors. And so I would say as a byproduct of that, I became on what's called a Microsoft MVP. So most valuable professional. This is an award that they give out yearly. And you can't earn it via certification or anything like that. It's a kind of like, we bless you. You're an amazing person. You've done all this value for the global community. We'll give you this award. And it's a really sought after thing. Another MVP valued it they reckon that it contributed over $700,000 in their career by getting that MVP status. I definitely got that MVP status on the back of me building my originals. I've had two personal brands. My OG brand was NZ CRM Guy, because I was big on CRM back in the early part of my career. And then I had a brother-in-law, we're at a party, and he put up an Instagram, and my Instagram account was NZ CRM Guy. And he was like, who's this NZ Crumb Guy? And, for somebody outside the industry, he was in the Australian Defence Forces. And who's this NZ Crumb Guy? And it hit me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so, it's things like that make me think. And so I changed my brand to NZ365 Guy. Could be 365 days of the year. It could mean, Dynamics 365 was a product I was in. There's another product from Microsoft called Microsoft 365. It just was broad enough. And, the NZ is, of course, because I'm from New Zealand, and the guy is because I'm a guy. So that was kind of the combo set that I came up with, that I then changed all my social media handles to be that.
So if somebody wants to create an online course or some sort of mentoring program like you've done, but they haven't started their own brand yet, they haven't started posting content yet, do you recommend that they post content for 7 to 10 years before they can launch a program?
No, I had no systems. I had nobody telling me this is how you build a personal brand. When I started doing it, I didn't even know that's what I was doing, was building a personal brand, right? And so I reckon now you could do it in a year to a year and a half, depending on how serious you are.
So let's pretend it's me. I'm very serious about it. I want to start this brand.
Yep.
And you, before I go and make a program, it sounds like you do recommend let's start posting free content. Let's do content marketing. Now, you've done this for a long time. In 2024, where's the best place for me to start doing that?
Writing. Nothing else. Like I'm dyslexic. I hated writing in school. I can't spell. So writing is the worst thing for me to do. Yet, it's funny. I did a lot of stuff in 2017. I decided to write 1,000-word blog post every day of the week. And when I say every day, that meant 7 days a week. To force myself, and by the way, this is before AI, ChatGPT, and all these type of things, right? So to force myself to write, I'm never happy with making an excuse for where I am in life. And so I set out for 1 year to write 1,000 words a day, and just post them as long form blog posts on my website. And that was to, I feel, build the muscle. Now, I only did it for 9 months. I didn't complete the year, but I felt that I had achieved what I set out to do. Now, if you've got to choose one platform, I feel you can't be on every platform to be really good from finding your audience. And so for me, because my audience are all business based, I choose LinkedIn as my platform of choice. And now I do a combination of short form and long form writing. I am not at the point where I am doing it every day. I try to get 3 out a week, and these are business days, so Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But if I was coaching somebody right now, if you want to build a personal brand, don't do video, don't do podcasting, write, because writing is amazing, and that it helps you really clarify your ideas as you go through the process of writing, editing, refining, and then you put it out into the world on a platform where people can have very diverse opinions. I just wrote a post after that Slovenia conference, and I had somebody did something off the wall in a session. They built an app using AI, and the app was to track if you owed me a shot at a bar or I owed you a shot, right? It was an app to track who owed who on who'd purchased shots for each other. And so to make the session interactive, they bought out 3 bottles of tequila, and they had the shot glasses there. And in Slovenia, shot glasses aren't like a 30 ml or an ounce shot glass, right? They are normal drinking glasses. And I had 5 double shots. They told me in hindsight, they were really double shots plus, and so I drank these within a 45-minute session. And I wrote this blog post afterwards. I went to Italy, went to Venice, and after I woke up from that, I wrote this blog post, and I wrote this LinkedIn post, threw it on LinkedIn, and it's had over 81,000 views, which in LinkedIn thing, that's a big deal. That's a big viewership, and over 220 comments, and they are brutal. Some of them totally, against what I was saying. So many private messages off it. And the thing is that I couldn't have written that post if I hadn't reclarified and clarified my thinking. And I knew that I was going to be controversial in what I said, and I knew I was going to get a lot of engagement. You can only learn that by doing over and over and over and over again. And I feel that writing is such a clarifier, because from writing, you can decide, hey, I'm going to create YouTube shorts off that. From writing, you can decide if I'm going to do a YouTube channel off that, or, take it to TikTok. If you're writing for a platform like LinkedIn, it probably cross-posts really well to X. And there's something about writing, and I feel it's the fastest way to build a personal brand in 2024.
It's so interesting to hear somebody that does podcast and does make videos to say, don't do that. I'm assuming you're not saying don't do that forever. You're saying start with writing, right? And possibly
if you
add
want to
those
build
other
your brand
things
the quickest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It allows
because it translates to all those other things, right? You'll be if you're a good writer, and therefore you'll learn to tell good stories. The minute you go to video, your stories will be your video will be epic because your video has the story as its foundation, not the lights, camera, action as the foundation. So people, I think, sometimes on YouTube and stuff or TikTok and stuff can focus on all those visual elements. At the end of the day, it's the story that has the power. And if you're a good writer, because you've learned how to write over time, you will have good story, and that will make you more successful than all the jazz hands and exciting visuals that you have.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's like it's the form of content that's the least friction, right? We can put the same content out there, but by just writing, we don't have to worry about a podcast microphone, lighting, cameras, right? Otherwise, you'd be okay with it, but it's getting the content out there in kind of the least friction way. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah. But also the most clarified way, right? As in, sometimes a lot of people come to me and ask, I want to start a podcast. What do I do? I want to start a YouTube channel. What should I do? And the thing is, you can get bogged down on, do I have the right tech? Do I have, and I've spent, I don't know how much I've spent on tech because I'm a tech person. So, like now as we're talking, I'm looking at you through my teleprompter. And which means the camera is front and center. I can have an engaged type look with my audience. I have tech all around me here. So I'm big on that, but I realize that's not the thing that creates who you are in the market. It's the ability for you to tell stories and create connection with people, and people go, you know what? He gets me. He understands where I'm at. And he's worth listening to. And I feel it comes back to, once again, the process you go through in writing and articulating your thoughts and clarifying. It's kind of like you test your thoughts when you write. You don't just, I don't just write and then there's one cut and I'm done. It goes back and I'm like, I don't like that word. That doesn't really portray, or I'm being too wordy here and it's adding no value. I feel like the editing process of your writing is what gets you good at this.
If somebody's listening to this and they want to take you up on this advice, but for their niche, maybe LinkedIn doesn't make sense, what are some other options for writing? Is it as simple as just having a blog on your own website, or are there other more social media platforms?
So it's interesting because I've been on Twitter since 2009. And I've got a small following there, around 12,000 people that I've built up over time. And of course, that's longevity time, right? And when Elon took over Twitter and it became X, heaps in our community was like, I'm out. They didn't like Elon for whatever reason. And so they felt that Twitter was dying and X was no longer a platform they wanted to be on. What I noticed is that because media around the world has become so, it's probably always has been, but it's become clearer in modern times that stories are written because money is made on stories. And it's not really news. It's what gets the clicks. It's what gets the engagement. And so I switched off from news as in watching any form of news. So TV, news sites, anything like that in 2017. I decided to clear out of my life anything that I couldn't change but got me aggravated when I engaged with it. And news was one of those things. I would get angry about it. And I realized as I was burning all these cycles on stuff I couldn't change. And so I decided to eliminate news. And so what I noticed though with X, particularly last year when there was a big disruption, if you like, in the whole AI of the world with OpenAI and Sam Altman being fired from OpenAI. That happened over a weekend, and all updates in real time were happening on X. Whether it's Sam tweeting, I'm leaving the building, here's my photo of me out. It was not that news cycle didn't come from CNN or CNBC or any of those type of things. It was all broken on X. And I realized at that point, this is why X is going to become a big deal. And then I've noticed it's increased in popularity. And I know people that have built, once again, their brand and their online courses into $1 million per annum businesses just through X, getting an audience, building it, and, generally no imagery or anything, just text-based tweets. And so I would say that. But listen, if you're a visual influencer, if you're into fashion or something, it's obviously Instagram is probably going to be where you would build that audience. And so it's horses for courses. I'm on every social media, but I just focus on the one. You've got to work out what's in it for you. I've got a boy who's just started university, and he's in his first year of a law and psych degree. And in his final year at school, so 17 years old, he started on TikTok. And people started messaging me and go, is this your son on TikTok? And I took a look, and he's like, got a video with 7 million views. And I'm like, what the hell is this possible? And then, I forget, he's well over, I don't know, he's in the multi-tens of millions of views now and likes off the Richter scale. And he's doing video where he never talks in his video. So nobody knows he has a Kiwi accent. Most of his audience are in the US, and he's a hip hop dancer. And so he does a dance routine. He does it to music that is often supplied to him by music creators. And he wears clothing. We never pay for clothing for him because he gets clothing sent from all around the world for him to wear in his TikTok. He gets the music bed that he's going to do the dance to from creators all around the world. He gets paid around 500 US per 20-second TikTok he does. Because in 1 year, he built this massive audience, and TikTok is his platform of choice, and it absolutely works for him. And so, choose a platform that's right for you. In his case, there's no, writing isn't the fit for him because it's a dance routine that he does in 20 seconds with a music bed and wearing clothing all supplied. So find what works for you.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that clarification. An excellent example. That would be very hard to have that same success for your son with just writing. If he's just on camera dancing, not even speaking, right? And when I launched my piano brand 11 years ago, I figured I kind of needed to be on camera. Now, I think that's not the same as the dancing thing. I probably could have made it work by doing written, maybe having some visuals along with the written. But that was my thought process is like, for this niche, I really need to be on camera. So I started a YouTube channel. Fast forward to about 7 years ago when I started this brand, I just kind of always wanted to start a podcast. And so I chose podcasting audio as the genesis of this brand. Also, never really been a great writer, Mark. Never really enjoyed it very much. However, I will say at the beginning of this year, so about 6 months ago, we finally started a weekly email newsletter. Every week, sending out the email newsletter for free, also posting it as a blog post. And I absolutely wish we would have done that sooner because I see the perks of it. We're taking clips of it, posting it to LinkedIn, to X. And so I do see the advantage of the written word. We're doing that every week. And we're already starting to be like, all right, well, we're running low on content ideas. Like, what is your process for never running out of things to write or talk about?
Yeah. So I find that, in the people that I mentor, that's one of their biggest blockers is they sit down to create content and they stare at a blank piece of paper. And I think it was Hemingway that said that he would never end a chapter and put down his, pen from writing. He would always start the next chapter while he was in that flow. So when he came back, he was already off to the races. He already had started the chapter. He knew he was going. And I feel that when you've just completed a great piece, go straight in, because you're probably in a flow state there to start the or even just get the headline of your next idea, right? And just put it on paper. So on my iPhone, I have an app that's down in my speed rail at the bottom of the phone called Drafts. I've had it for years, and all it is a text-based app. And doesn't matter where I'm at. I could be out shopping, could be at a restaurant, and you never know where inspiration strikes. And I take this from Taylor Swift, right? Taylor Swift always opens her phone and something will inspire her. She'll see something, a lyric will come to mind. She writes it down. She doesn't know when she's going to use it, but she writes it down. And the thing is, you've got to capture inspiration when it comes, because your mind is a great idea generator, but it's not a great storer of ideas. And you don't want to be in that position like, oh man, I had that great idea and I just can't remember what it was, when it's time to create. And so I am always harvesting ideas. I will see something else and I'm like, that sparks in me a hook, an idea. I write it down. And so you should have a massive list of ideas. And sometimes I will get, like, I was flying back and I was 24 hours on a plane, from Slovenia back to New Zealand. And I just got on this roll of things that had, been discussed over the previous week at this conference. And I was like, the ideas just rolled. So I just created a new note for every idea. And then I get home and I've got 10 different content ideas. And those content ideas, have like 10 sub-content ideas per content idea that I just riffed on the plane. And so now I've got, like, just on that, it was probably only half hour of inspiration, but I probably wrote out about 6 weeks worth of content in that time that all need to be built out, all needed to be added to. But now I start from that point. I've got this list of ideas. And so I feel you've always got to make sure you have a default mechanism. Don't think of, am I going to write this idea on a piece of paper, or what app am I going to use to do it? Have one app that you go to instinctively for and that you drop your ideas. So you only have to go back there and review. It's always in one place. That's my tip.
That's really good advice. I completely agree. I could be doing that even better. I try to keep everything in Notion is kind of where I keep things, but to make it super simple, I do love to easily capture ideas and thoughts on the run. And so the app of choice I use to capture it's called Brain Toss, and it's just really easy to just like record audio or just write a note, and then you hit send, and it's in your email inbox. So then I can process those when I'm checking emails and then move over the good ideas over to my Notion database is my process.
I like it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Fair warning.
I'm Brain Toss. I just wrote that one down.
I'm on Android. I'm not an iPhone guy, so maybe it's Android only. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
But you got to find the system that works for you. All right, Mark. What is your favorite food?
Wow. Bacon.
Solid choice.
Easily bacon. I have this thing with my kids. If you what's the one food if you could only eat it for the rest of your life? And I mean, it's followed quickly by potatoes, because potatoes, I feel, is such a versatile food, can be cooked into any format. But bacon, without a doubt, I love all types of bacon, and I've got to limit my intake. But it's definitely my favorite.
How many types of bacon are there?
Well, you can have streaky bacon, you can have shoulder bacon, you can have, bacon done in maple syrup, like if you're in Canada. There's different ways of grilling it and, barbecuing it. There's,
Soft or crispy?
Crispy.
Why does anybody ever want like soft bacon? Like to me, it's like get it as crispy as you can get it without burning it, and that's the only way to go.
That's it. Yeah. And for me, you grill it in an oven to do that. You don't fry it. You grill it in an oven to get it super crispy and amazing. Yeah.
Man, we are so on the same page there. All right. So I think it's high time we talk about your program. All right. The 90-day mentoring challenge. Is that basically the same program? I mean, I'm looking at your website right now. Is it the same one you launched several years ago?
Yeah. So I launched the program and I ran it free for 5 years.
Free?
So free. Yeah.
Why?
100% free because, see, I didn't want anything to be a barrier, no excuses for people to do it. And for me, it was just, I had this 20 years of experience and I wanted to distill it down. And so I did this big mind map and everything. And I distilled it down into 6 modules that were each an hour long. Each hour of content took me 12 hours to create. And I did it for free. And I had over 500 people go through that program. And the stories that came out of it were they were humbling stories, just amazing. And I'm really transparent. Like, I know in some of those, I cried on camera, for example, when I'm an emotional person and I really put all myself into this. I want people to feel like this is not just this is not like a courseware churn or something like that. And so, yeah, I did it free for all that time. But what happened is that a lot of people said, this has been undervalued. Like, this is a $2,000 course. Because it's 90 days long. The course takes 3 months to do, and it's intense. Like, you've got to do a lot of homework as part of what I do. I'm like, if you want to transform, if you want to change your life and go from here to here, what you've been doing doesn't work. And so we're going to get down and we're going to talk about some hard realities that you need to change if you want to take your career from here to here. And I need you to learn a whole bunch of stuff that you don't do. And so I'm direct, I'm frank, I am, but yeah, I poured myself into that 90-day mentoring challenge. And why the 90-day mentoring challenge goes back to branding. If I just said, mentoring for business applications, wow, what does that mean? So the 90-day MC, when anybody types that into any search engine, right, you will only get my course. When I go to an event, everybody knows the 90-day MC that's in my community. It's the brand. I made it a brand in its own right. So once again, I had learned about findability online, and you become findable by meshing 2 dictionary words together, and you create a new word. You are going to index high in search engines. You're going to index at number 1 generally for that word. And so that's how I get around search engine optimization. I create a brand name that can only point to me when somebody searches for it.
The motivation behind offering this for free, and in light of the 7 to 10 years of free content you'd been putting out there, then you go and launch a 90-day product that for every 1 hour of content took you 12 hours. And for 5 years, that is free. Is that just part of your world domination plan?
No, for me, it was about giving back. I have never been to university. I have never had a formal education. I was a groundskeeper when I came out of high school, because I was brought up in a farming environment, and my dad never placed any emphasis on education. And I only thought, like, I was dumb at school. That was a common label for me, right? I was always last in class. And so the concept of doing a job that wasn't physical labor was just foreign to me. So that's why I went into groundskeeping, because, hey, I could fix lawnmowers, I could fix tractors. I was brought up on a dairy farm. I was very practical in what I could do. And so what I noticed and what I wanted to make available to people is that I have built a very successful career in this area of technology without that formal education. And I have fed a lot of mouths off the businesses and stuff that I have created, which for every person you employ, you're supporting probably 5 other people in that family unit. And what blew me away in the technology space I am in, it didn't matter what your background, and in our industry now, we've got people that, were hairdressers and have got into tech, receptionists and got into tech, and their potential, in tech to earn very high salaries. Because technology is a sought after area, especially as we go into the area of AI, there's a lot of people going, my gosh, I'm a builder, I'm a plumber, I'm a practical skill-based person or labor-based. I do stuff that requires my hands, not really my head or mind. Could I do something like this? And this era of technology allows somebody, as long as they got motivation, skill can be taught. Motivation is the key. And so what I found is that this technology was such an enabler to build families economically by getting into the tech industry. And I'm a living example of it, right? So I just said, hey, how can that help other people? How can that be possible that more people, particularly in countries that that are not on our radar, and a lot of Eastern European countries, a lot of countries that in the past we would have seen third world. I saw this TED talk by this guy from, he's no longer alive, but he was from Sweden, and he showed the economic change that's happened over the last 100 years and what the West considers third world, and just the economics of the third world now. When one of the measurements was, does someone make enough money to take an international flight and go to another country? And the thing is, so many countries, like a lot of the countries in Africa, a lot of the countries in Eastern Europe, and all the peripheral countries around China and things like that, they now have they make enough money that they can actually travel internationally. These massive countries, their quality of living has increased so much, but I just see that tech is such an enabler, and so I want to tap into these audiences and really enable them that I knew weren't part of this Microsoft community that I was in, because it didn't, the area of tech I'm in, doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can work remotely for anybody, that are after your skills. And so, yeah, I wanted to give back and make it sure that there was no barrier for entry. The problem is, what I've realized in hindsight is that if people don't have skin in the game, if they haven't outlaid some financial amount, they don't follow through and complete. Because, it didn't cost me anything, I'll join the next one. That's free, I'll go on the next one. And there's that, I noticed that attitude starting to come through. And then the more I got into the psychology of creating content and courses and things like that, or products, not really just courses, is that if people don't have skin in the game, they don't value things the same. And skin in the game in our world is a financial transaction as a rule. And so it was only about a year ago that I decided, you know what, I'm going to bring the program back, but it's going to be in a paid format.
How has that gone so far? How is it different?
Crazy. It was the follow through has been through the roof, and so much so that, and I sold out so quickly. So I've always been a cohort based course, right? So the 90 days, that means I'd do it only 4 times a year. The problem is I'm capping the possibility of it by doing that model. And so I've actually just knocked on the head. So Q3 this year was going to be my 3rd cohort kickoff for the year. And I have killed that. I've now gone to it's on all the time in real time. So I've changed the way I run the program. And when I say I made that change was yesterday. So that is so new. And so I've made actually quite a few changes on my site there. And because what I had is a lot of people would go on my wait list, and people are ready to do something now. And when you say, listen, come back in 3 months' time and it's game on, life changes for people, right? And they're at this highly motivated state and they want to take action now. And I'm like, yeah, cool, come back, and time moves on for people. So I've now gone to a full on demand. I re-recorded my entire course because it used to be always lives. Everything was live to camera. I would do it in 2 time zones. So I'd do Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere. Those are all when I was running it for free. I was doing that. So I was delivering the course twice a day at the tail ends of the day to get those audiences in. I still had people getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning based on their time zone to do it. And I was like, you know what? I need to do all the actual content that I cover, the meat and potatoes of my course. I need to record it as self-paced. And then what I do is fortnightly run live Q&A sessions. And so that has been a game changer. So the lives, everybody comes to the lives and they've got their questions and everybody is riffing off each other and it creates an amazing community. And one thing that's coming through solidly is people that say it wasn't just the program, it's the community that's really had the biggest impact. I would never run a training course now, as in something that I was doing online like this, that didn't have a massive community element. Because I tell you what, my alumni network now that's coming off the back of this is just next level amazing, in that people are going, hey, I've got a job at this company, anyone interested? And now there's this whole job sharing network. There's this whole content creating network around our niche. That's another subgroup that's spun off that. There's a tech discussion group that's spun off that. And like, that's all my audience. That, like, I control all those groups and so I know that if I have a version 2 or other products, now I've got this waiting audience that I know will engage and purchase from it. So I can't emphasize enough the need to create the community element. And you know what? I've researched all the content platforms. Most of them all suck at community. And they don't realize that community in a modern world has to have the fidelity that you get with Facebook, or the fidelity that you get with, and what I mean by that is that, like, I drive people in my course to get in front of the camera and record themselves. Don't do a text-based response to a question or an assignment. I want you to pick up your phone. We're not editing it. This is a circle of trust group here. Get on your camera, talk to the camera, because in our modern world of tech, you need to be a good communicator over camera, because most of your meetings these days are not in a conference room or a meeting room. They are going to be through a lens of a camera. And if you don't get comfortable with that, you don't get comfortable in your own skin and how you look on camera, you're going to struggle to be a good communicator in the world that we live in your day-to-day conversations and stuff with people. And so that's and I found every platform I looked at just sucked at that straight to camera experience. They were like, oh, record a video and upload it. Nobody does that when you're on, sending a message to your friend on Instagram, right? You're in your private messaging them, or you're going to use Messenger, or you're going to use WhatsApp or whatever. You're just like, hit the record button, bang, it handles where does it store that video? People don't want to think about that in a community. They just want it to click and work. And so it's caused me to move around and change my platform over that time to get the right community fit.
So what is that community fit for you?
WhatsApp.
Really? So you run your community through WhatsApp?
100%, because they've got a whole communities function now in it, which allows you to have a community and subgroups on it. And I tell you what, it has been I started on Facebook, and I hated on Facebook as nobody could read the stream of consciousness. Facebook in your private groups would start to going, oh, this is the most popular message. Well, when you have a community like this, people want to see the stream of in order that it comes in the comments and things like that. If you upload a document, if you throw in a picture, they want to see it in that order of stream. And nothing I have found now, nothing beats WhatsApp. It's just epically amazing and simple. And not only do I have their email address now, I've got their phone number. And so as another touch point, as another outreach point, so what I make sure when somebody goes in my group, their phone number in my WhatsApp doesn't stay as their phone number. It gets their full name put in there as I manually do that. So I know exactly who I'm talking to. There's no lurkers in my group that I don't know who they are. They're all, named people. And so I have just found it, WhatsApp so powerful, and all the other platforms that have looked like I was told for a while, Circle is an amazing platform and it's really great on community. I go in there and I've got one acid test. Can I hit a button and record a video and not think about how I saved it or anything? If I can't do that, it's not a good community platform. It's that simple.
Wow. Just for full transparency, we use School, and that's not a feature I've ever thought about needing. So it doesn't do that. But other than that, it's been pretty satisfactory in terms of community engagement and whatnot. I'm sure that's one you've looked into and didn't like because it didn't have that feature.
It's had School recently has had I feel a caning online, with it being very just, it's a gamified commercial type platform that people are feeling that, it's all around building the School platform, not really about driving outcomes. That's what I've heard recently. And I know, I forget the dude that's one of the guys I listen to. He's a big promoter of School. He's obviously done a,
Mosey.
Yeah, Mosey. And I love his books. I think they're such important books for anybody creating an online course. You need to read and understand your product market fit. You need to really understand how to join. I haven't done the leads book for him yet because I was just trying to get, and I was just saying with my wife yesterday, I still don't feel our landing page converts enough. Like it's not written well enough yet. And I tell you what, I'd love to find someone that was a guru on that landing page and that I could just pay to go in and go, you know what? I'm going to come through and I'm going to tell you what works and we're going to edit this up, because I feel like all the building blocks are there, but it's not yet in a format that really drives to purchase yet. That needs to be worked on. But that's I've looked at Mighty Networks, I've looked at School, I've looked at Circle. I've looked at all these things. The platform that I currently use, it also sucks on the community. It's the worst feature on the platform. And so I turned that feature off and decided I'm going to go WhatsApp. And that started, so much stuff happened when I was in London. And in 2017, 2018, I didn't work for that year I just learnt. I just used it as a massive input year and a content creation year. And one of the things I did was started this WhatsApp group called the Power Platform Happy Hour, where we met in a pub and in London for people that just wanted to meet each other. This was pre-COVID once again. Well, and I did a post about it, and then people said, hey, can I have a happy hour in, Salzburg? Can I have one in Russia? Can I have one? And all of a sudden, my blog post had all these flags, and here's the links to join all these WhatsApp groups. Like one of them was in Nigeria, and that group grew to 300 people in WhatsApp. And out of it, there's this now massive developer community in Nigeria, like just phenomenal. And the power of community is so important, I feel. And I'm still in there. I'm still the admin of that WhatsApp group, but of course it's taken its entire own life by the Nigerian community. And it's just, So when I decided, how am I going to do community, I decided WhatsApp was going to be the tool, and I've not regretted it so far.
For the record, the creator of School is from New Zealand as well. I'm sure you knew that.
No way.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Sam Ovens is the one that created School.
I would never have picked him as a Kiwi. I always thought he was an American.
No. He's definitely, I've been following him since back when he lived in New Zealand. He moved to New York years ago, and then he moved to California, which is where School is based out of now. And then roughly a year ago or so, Hormozy invested in School, but Sam Ovens is the one that started it a few years back, and he is certainly from New Zealand. But it does not have that feature you're looking for. So I respect that.
Yeah, that's my acid test.
Yeah.
Can someone hit a button, a video icon, record a video, and not think about it and just know it's posted?
If I wanted to sign up for your program today, I'm on the sales page now. It's around $500 US. Let's talk about what I get. I get the pre-recorded training, the course. I get the community. You've already gone into detail on that. from this page, it looks like I get 6 live Q&A sessions from you. Is that pretty much what I'm getting?
Oh, sorry, 6. Yeah, well, there's 12 of them because I do them in two hemispheres, so 2 time zones. Yeah, 12 across that period. Yeah.
What happens after the 90 days? Does everything go away?
No, unlimited access and unlimited access to the community after that, and that's why I've gone into the alum, set up the alum, because people just wanted to carry on with the engagement after that, and so another WhatsApp group is where people go. That WhatsApp group is split into multiple categories as well, so there's not too much chatter in the main group, because I find if people are talking a lot and I'm not interested, they're more likely to exit the group rather than mute it. And so what I've done is created these subgroups based on audience requests that allow people to, as I say, if you want to do content creation, there's a content creation group. And so everybody in that is talking about what's working for them, what's not, what channel are they on. Here's my post. Can you take a look at it? Give me feedback. So yeah, you get lifetime access to all those things and the content.
What about the live Q&A sessions? Do I get lifetime access to that too?
Yep.
Sounds like a great offer. So after the 90 days, you move people to kind of a separate group. Do you have you thought about maybe charging like a smaller monthly fee for people to stick around past the 90 days?
I haven't, but it's kind of like I'm always open to new ideas, right? And evolving these things. And as I say, I come back to the course. The people that have seen the course, the business people that I listen to and stuff, particularly in the US, have said this is a $2,500 course. Like the amount of content in there, like people that go through it, the common word is, I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose, right? I give so much, and then there's so much, like in one year I read 85 books in a year. I couldn't read till I was 12 years old, but now my main mentor are books, right? And so I'm always got a book on the go. I read constantly. I always buy more books than I read, and I've distilled down some just key books that will have massive impact on people's careers. That alone is another, 20 hours a week of reading that they could be doing on top of what I cover. So I make sure that when people walk away, no one will ever say that wasn't worth the money, right? I want them to be, and that's why I've kept it under, at the $4.99 cost, because once again, for me, in the tech industry, that's 2 hours of billable time, right? Can you afford 2 hours of your billable time to invest in your career? That, one area I teach is negotiation, right? How to negotiate and get the salary. How do you have salary negotiations with your employer? And understanding from the employer's side how difficult it is to have that negotiation with you. And you say, so how do you make that easy for them? How do you make the answer to be yes? And if you can't get yes, what are your exit strategies to go and find somebody that will pay you an extra $20,000 a year or $50,000 a year because you're worth it type thing? And so I wanted to keep it at that kind of, I know 2 billable hours should easily cover the cost of it. I've actually just added the feature that you can split payment across 3 months, which is, I learned it off some other course. I tell you, so I do courses myself all the time, right? I'm always learning. And so I take other people's course, not just to learn what they're teaching, but also I look at how they deliver their course. How does that work? What can I learn from it that I can apply to my course? My goal is that the 90-day mentoring challenge will produce $1 million US in revenue per year. That's my goal for it. And the hardest thing I've had to do is not diversify my course. So heaps of people go, well, you do a career changer course. And I'm like, man, I know this space. I could so do this, but I feel like it would dilute my course. And I don't want to become just, a million courses. And I just want to have one course. I want to market it right. I want to get it to the point that it's doing $1 million a year. I'll be happy with that because I have my finger in a lot of other pies and businesses and stuff as well. But I feel that if I did that, that's a sustainable model.
It sounds like
And
some
I
of
know I have an
the
addressable
some
model.
of the decisions you've made here recently are an effort to get to that point. It sounds like you've made it significantly more scalable in the things that you've been doing.
Yeah.
My B2B listeners would hate it if I didn't ask you something about B2B. I imagine most of your sales and your marketing is still probably B2C, but do you do any B2B?
So what you can't see there on the website is a non-displayed link, which is for businesses. And so what happens is that Microsoft, if you sell Microsoft licensing, I'm saying, just to give you an idea of sizing here, one of my customers last year bought 230,000 licenses of the Power Platform or Power App specifically from Microsoft. Now, that was a German company. That's large, right? That means they have 330,000 employees. Now, for that company, if you're the seller of those licenses on behalf of Microsoft to them, you get about a $4 million rebate on that deal, right? Now, then on top of that rebate, Microsoft gives you what's called co-op investment funds, which is, hey, here's a percentage of that sale that you can either use to invest in marketing in your business, or you can invest into your people. You can take 40% of it, invest in people. So what I do on there is I have a B2B program that allows them to spend that money with me. They can put their individuals, and so I get like 30 at a time come from those businesses, and I invoice them. So they're like, hey, we want to buy 30 seats, 50 seats, whatever it might be, 100 seats. And we're talking about companies that have over 300,000 employees. So we're talking a large enterprise type customers. And so they have to have an invoice created very specific to meet Microsoft's approval for Microsoft then to pay the money for that. And so I've just had my first 2 B2B signups, one in Australia, one in New Zealand, that put a volume of people through. And then all I do is I issue 100% off coupon codes, give them back to that company for however many seats they purchased. And then the individual they can give it to, they can come along, sign up, put that code in. The $4.99 goes to zero because it's already been paid for. And that's my B2B model. Now, my wife's just returned from a delegation to France, Dublin, and London. And one of the people on the delegation was from Boeing. And they use the Power Platform at scale inside Boeing, and they don't have any internal training program for the Power Platform, which is the key area I specialize in with this course. And so that's going to be now our first non-Microsoft partner, but business customer that will once again buy seats at scale for this program.
Are you doing anything to prevent a company buying the course for $500 and then sharing it with 100 people?
One code, one person.
No.
Oh, you mean they could take all my content and share it?
Yes.
C'est la vie, man. As in, if that's your mentality, good luck. Like, I don't care. I haven't got time in life to worry about the what ifs in that scenario. I've just, if you're the type of person that'll steal, you always work out a way to steal.
You didn't hesitate. You came right out with it. I love that. I love that mindset. I get that question a lot from new course creators. They're like, oh, what if somebody comes in and they start sharing their password? What if they download my videos and start selling it themselves? Sounds like somebody like you who, I mean, that's a realistic possibility when you have business interest, right? These people have hundreds of employees that could benefit from your training. Hey, I'll just go buy one for $500 and start sharing it around. Your attitude is, so what?
Yeah. The thing is, they're not going to get all those people in my community, right? Because I'd be like, where the heck did you come from? So, and that's the beauty, right, of splitting the community off into the WhatsApp group. That's a unique phone number. Nobody shares their phone number around and has a burner phone that they can share amongst 100 staff. So I really, honestly, years ago, so here's the whole thing about, and I know we're almost on time, is about licensing. If let's say a 15-year-old kid they have a budget, let's say, of $100 a year that they can spend on video games. And then they spend that $100 and they buy their, let's say, 2 video games for a year. And this is back when pirating of video games was a real big deal. I remember in PC World, this article saying, listen, that kid has no more than $100 to spend. So if they go and pirate 5 other video games, did the creators of those video games really lose out? They had already taken the maximum pie that this kid had to spend because they've gone and copied that game. Yes, they've got the gaming experience but did you lose the revenue? Because they could never afford the 5 other games. They never had that budget. And it's just an interesting mindset. Now, I think most software companies have got around this by going to cloud, where requiring a subscription-based model rather than back in the day, Adobe, for example, Photoshop used to be, circled around the internet. Now, if you're not in Adobe Cloud, good luck to trying and getting a free copy of Adobe. I don't know, like that whole, with the invention of things like Spotify and stuff like that, the whole model economics of, pirating music just totally changed. I don't even know if those communities exist anymore. But if someone's going to steal it, they're going to work out a way to steal it. And I haven't got time to think about it, worry about it.
All right, Mark, let me ask you one more question here. Your intro, food, family, fun, we hit food. You mentioned your son, so we'll cross off family as well. What do you like to do for fun?
So I'm an outdoors person. I've got 1.5 acre section around me, and I'm building a syntropic forest. The syntropic forest kind of came invented by a Swiss guy who went to the Amazon. And the idea is in a square meter space, you should be planting around 40 odd plants per square meter. And we have what is called succession planting. It restores the soil back from its, agricultural last 150 years of damage and restores the ecosystem, the biosystem back in, and produces vegetables, fruit, nuts, everything directly. So I'm big on sustainability. So the distance from food source to plate is a big thing I'm focused on. I don't want it to go through, multiple truck rides and multiple storage facilities. I want to produce my food on site and have it consumable. So syntropic forestry, robotic lawnmowers is another big one. If people have heard me before, they know I'm big into robot lawnmowers. And I've just got a new one arriving today, the next generation. And it's I'm big on this. I call it my first robot. I think I'll have a humanoid robot within the next 10 years. I'm excited about where that whole tech is going.
I might have to ping you about that separately. That's something I've been considering getting. It takes me a long time to cut my grass. But Mark, look, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. Congrats on all the success. Thanks for sharing all the awesome wisdom with us today. And hopefully we can stay in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And there you have it. An absolute pleasure to have that conversation with Mark, and best of luck to him as he transitions to the more evergreen model. And thank you out there for listening here to episode 231 of the Online Course Show. For the links and show notes for today's episode, head to oc.show/231. And if you're interested in learning more from me about how to start or grow your online course or membership business, I have a free workshop that's waiting for you at oc.show/workshop. Now, in that workshop, I share with you the formula that I've uncovered after 11 years of running my own successful course business, as well as 7 years of interviewing others on this very podcast. There's common threads among those that are successful with this stuff, and I share it with you all in that free workshop at oc.show/workshop. So I hope to see you over there. Thanks for listening to another episode, and don't forget to take action on what you've heard here today. I'm rooting for you.